Okay, so I want to take a look at some of the settings that we can do to kind of personalize the system and make it work the way that we want it to work. And I'd like to start with setting the default font and size and color and styles and so forth, and move on into working with paragraph spacing and page size and margins and so forth. So out of the box, pretty much we have the Calibri font that we're using. It's 11 point in size. You can kind of see that from the top here. And we have a certain set of margins here. It looks like about a 1-inch margins. Our text is left aligned and so forth. So what we're going to do is we're going to change the settings of some of this so where this document and all future documents will have that same set of settings, let's just say. All right. So we're going to start out first of all with the font. And normally, if you wanted to just change the font or change the size or whatever you wanted to do here, you could like select everything. And we'll talk about this a little bit later on, but you'd select it all, and then you can go back in here and you can change the font, change the size, and so forth. So we're going to change the default, and in changing the default, not only will it be for those future documents, but also for this current document as well. That's why it's always good to have some sort of a document up on the screen when you set this stuff up so that you have an idea of what it's really going to give you in the long run. Alright, so to change that default font, what we're going to do is we're going to click on to the Home tab here, and then we're going to go into the Font dialog box, this guy right here. Click onto that. This opens up, and what we're going to do is we're going to figure out what font we want, the size, the style, and so forth. So in this case, like I said, we're using the Calibri, and another word for that is what they have on here with the plus body here. What we're going to do is we're going to find, first of all, a different font, and the font that I think I'd like to use will be the Arial. All right, so we'll click on the Arial, and then we'll go over here for the font style. I don't think we want to make it bold. I think just keeping it regular would be fine. But as far as the size goes, I'd like to maybe set it for about 14. All right, a little bit bigger than normal, but in this day and age, I think it's a lot easier for people to read type that's just a little bit bigger. So the bigger the number here, the bigger the text. Now the font color is set for automatic, which means black. You can always go in here and you can kind of figure out, well, would it be better to have maybe just a little bit off of that, maybe a little bit grayer, or do you want to go with a completely different color? I think in business in these days, I would say that just staying with the black text is the way to go. So we'll leave it as automatic in there. Now once we've done all that, we'll go back in here and we'll click on to set as default. And here it says, do you want to just do it for this document? Which you see back here, it's like, no, what we want to do is we want to go with the all documents, meaning the current one and all future ones, based on our normal template. So we'll go ahead and hit OK on that. Oh, I'm sorry, we'll click on it here first, hit OK, and there we go. Now when I look at that, it does look just maybe a little bit larger than what I'd like it to be. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go back in there again, go to where it says the 14. Now, problem is I want 13. All right, 13 is not in there, so I'll just go in here and I'll just change that to a 13. Just type that in. And I'll go back down here and click on to set as default again. All documents, hit OK, and there we go. And I think that looks good. So that's how you can expect all future documents to look as well. Okay, let's look at some of the paragraph features now. Right now, our paragraphs are like left aligned. We have a certain amount of space between the lines of a paragraph. We have a certain amount of space after each paragraph. Just you get an idea here. When you first look at this, you think probably when we got done typing this first part here, we might have hit the enter key one time and then hit it again, and that's not the case. What's happened is we hit the enter key, it actually came down to here. And the reason for it is that we've got a certain amount of spacing that comes after or that pushes out, after the paragraph. All right, and you'll see what that is in just a second. So to change all those things, if you wanted to change them, by default, what you can do is you go back into the Home tab. We go over here into the paragraph area, click onto our little dialog box button there, go back over here to indents and spacing, and you'll see, first of all, the alignment that we have is left alignment. And I don't know, I think, when it comes to business type communication, I think the block style, or what they call the justified style, is the way to go. So what we can do right off the bat here, right at the top here where it says alignment left, we can change that to justified. All right. All right. Then a little bit further down, as far as the spacing that comes after the paragraph, you can see that it's set for 8 point. That's the default currently that Microsoft set up. And I look at that, I say 8 point. That might be just a little bit too much. Just keep in mind too, by the way, when we're talking about points or PT, as you see here, there are 72 points to a vertical inch. All right, so if this said 72, then that would mean we'd have an inch between the end of this paragraph and the beginning of this one here. All right, so I think maybe what I'm going to do, I'm going to change that to a 6. I'm just going to go in there and just highlight and type in 6, or you can backspace it, get 6 in there. It doesn't matter. Even if you got rid of everything and just left it as a 6, it would take it as being points. The other thing now, the spacing between the lines of the paragraph is set for multiple, which allows you to do increments of spacing. Now, just to give you an example, a multiple of 2 would be what you had maybe remember hearing about with the old-fashioned typewriters. That would have been like double spacing. All right. If we had set it for, let's say, 1.5, then that would have been 1.5 spacing. If we set it for 3, that would be triple spacing, which is quite a bit. So in this situation, to me, that might be just a little bit more than what I like to have. So I'm going to go back in there, and I'm going to change it from 1.08 maybe to 0.4, let's say. All right, and we'll see what happens with that one. Now, once we've done all that, we'll go back down to the bottom here. It says set as default. We'll click that. Again, similar to what we had before, all documents based on the normal template, which means this one and all new ones. All right. So you do that, you hit OK, and there we go. And you can kind of see a little bit less there, a little bit less here. Now, if you think it might stand to be just a little bit more tight, between the lines, we can go right back in there again. And we can change this maybe back to 1.02. All right. We'll hit set as default, all documents, hit OK. And that looks pretty good. All right. And I'm thinking maybe the spacing after the paragraph, maybe increase that a little bit. So I think maybe we'll go back to maybe 8. All right. And we'll go ahead and hit set as default, all documents, hit OK, and there we go. I think that's good. Now, another thing I want to look at has to do with the page size, the margins, that type of thing. Now, because this is set up in US, the program, we're using paper size of 8.5 by 11. That's our default size. Now, if you're in Canada, UK, Australia, wherever you are, you have your own standard sizes, and you can actually set that up in here. And I'll show you where to go to do that. So I'm not going to really change the paper size here. Well, maybe I will, just to kind of show you what it's going to look like. But initially, I think in most cases, especially if you're not outside of the country, then probably you're going to go with something other than 8.5 by 11. And then, of course, our margins as well. Margins are, I think, a little bit too much. I mean, we got, in essence, about 1 inch of margin on all 4 sides here. So we're going to change those 2 things. So to do that, we're going to go over here into the Layout tab. All right. And over here, we've got our margins. We've got our paper size and so forth. But if we change it here, it's only going to change it for this document. What we want to do is we want to change it for this document and all documents. So again, we're going to go into the dialog box, all right? And then you can see the margins. Now the margins, what we'll do here is we're going to bring the margins to 1/2 inch on the top, I mean all the way around. So the top, the left side, the bottom, and the right side. There we go. We're not going to be worrying about the gutter. That's when you're printing double-sided and you want to have a little bit of space in there for your binding or your binding comb or whatever you're going to be using. So we're not going to worry about that right now. We're going to leave everything portrait. We don't need to go sideways. Now the paper, on the other hand, if you click on the paper, you can see how we've got it set for 8.5 by 11. That's letter. Now if we hit the little drop-down arrow, you can see we've got other ones in here too. We've got the legal, which is 8.5 by 14. And we also have the, I think we have it in here, something called tabloid. I don't see it in here, but we can make any size you want. The deal with this is that you can specify exactly the size that you want as far as the width and the height, or if you find the size in here, I know like if you're up in Canada, you've got the A3s and A4s and A5s. If I go with, let's say, an A4, all right, that's kind of like their 8.5 by 11, all right. So in this case, it's a little bit less wide, and it's a little bit taller. So keep that in mind if you're in a situation where you've got a totally different paper size other than 8.5 by 11. Either find it from the list here, or just put it in your own measurements there. In this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back and put this back to being letter. All right, and then once we've done that, but actually I'll tell you what here. Let me just show you real quick. If I were to change this to, let's say, legal, and that's going to be, it's still going to be 8.5, but it's going to be 14 going down there, right? If we do that, and now I go back in here and I say, okay, now I want to set as default all this that we've done so far. So I'll click on the set as default. Now in this one it says, do you want to change the default settings for the page setup? This will change, affect all new documents, and that's it. So it doesn't give us anything about just doing this document. It's like, this will do this document and all to come, right? So we click on a yes on that one, and there we go. You can see there now we've got a little bit longer page there, all right? And I think we initially had 7 pages, so we knocked it down to 5 now. Now I'm going to go back and change that back to 8.5 by 11. So again, I'll just go back into my page setup dialog box. Go back in here and change it from legal to letter. There it goes. And then set as default. Hit yes. And there we go. And now you can see now we're back to now 7 pages and nowhere near as long a one. That other one gave us an extra, what, 8.5 by 11 versus 8.5 by 14. I mean, that's like, 3 extra inches. So that's quite a bit. Now, one other little thing here too, when it comes to some of you that are using some of the more advanced printers where you have like multiple bins or paper bins that you can use, like on my machine here, I have an HP that has 3 bins to it. So I can put cardstock in one bin and regular paper in another bin and so forth. I print out a lot of manuals when I'm doing regular classes, on site, and to be able to have a way of conveniently targeting certain paper bins for it to print on is very convenient. So let me just show you what that's about. When you come back into here, and we go back into our page setup here, and we go over here to we're already here. So in the paper area here, you can see that on the paper source area, that your first page is just the default tray, and that works just fine. But if for whatever reason you want that that first page to come from maybe tray 3, because that's where maybe you have your letterhead, and you want, when you go to print out your letters and reports and so forth, you want to have the first page with a letterhead, then the remaining pages on just regular paper, then you'd say, okay, I want the first page to come from tray 3, and then my remaining ones to come from tray 1, let's say, right? So if you do that, set the default. I'm not going to do it here because it'll mess me up. but um, but you know, in all practicality here, my point is that you do that, hit set as default, and that's it, right? So in this case, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to hit cancel. But I just want to give you an idea about that part. Okay, so I think that kind of takes care of that end of things. I want to talk a little bit about saving. Normally, when you save a document or a spreadsheet or whatever you're doing, you just hope that it's going to be there when you go to look for it next time, right? And we put a lot of trust into where it's going. So I want to show you where you would go to change where your files are stored. So in case maybe you're going to be putting your files on a network drive, because the default on this program, it actually saves your files to your local drive, let's say drive C. And the problem with that, and it's within a folder called Documents. The problem with that is if you ever lose your hard drive goes down, you're going to lose all your files, all right? So unless you've been backing them up. So a better way would be if you do have access to, let's say, the network drive, is to say that that's where you want to store them at, all right? And let me just kind of show you where you go to do that and a couple other things as well. So what you would do is click on a file, which is what we call the backstage, and then you'll scroll down towards the bottom of all this and you'll see something called options. So this is where we're going to go to kind of personalize the rest of our system. This is the main area here. So we click on the options, this little window pops up, all right? And then we go over into the save area, just like that. Now if you're using Office 365, where you have the cloud storage that Microsoft gives you for free actually, you're going to see in here it says autosave OneDrive and SharePoint online files by default on Word. And so by having that check mark in there, that's basically saying you're saving it to, even though technically you're saving it to your computer, it's also being saved on the cloud. So if anything happens to your computer, you've still got the files on the cloud. It's a very, very cool thing. Now, if you don't have that, then the other thought is, where would be your default file location that things are going to be saved at? Well, that's going to be down here, all right? So right now, this is my local drive C. That means if my hard drive goes down, all my files are gone. So if I wanted to change that location, I don't really want to do that because technically my files are actually being saved here, but they're also being saved on OneDrive on the cloud. But let me just show you where you'd go to do this. You click on to browse, just like that. And then you go and you figure, okay, I'm going to go to, let's say, drive F, let's say. So I go to drive F, and then I say, okay, and then maybe it's going to be in this extras or something like that. Now, let's just say that's where I want to save my files to. Well, if I do that, now we're pretending like this is my network drive, then I do that, hit OK, and then that would change this part here. So when I'm saving or opening files or retrieving files, it's gonna default from that area. It's gonna go to that area first. I mean, I can still override it and put it somewhere else, but that's where it will go on its own. Now, one thing that you don't want to mess with, okay, is this auto recover. And it has on here, well, you could mess with it and change the timing, but the point is that the auto recover, what that does is as you're typing, it's actually every 10 minutes in this case, it's saving kind of like a backup of what you're typing. Kind of like a little ghost out there. And what happens though is that when you go to save your document normally, it will then empty out, and then it'll save again 10 minutes later. But it's not going to save it directly to your file. It's just kind of saving it in memory. So what happens in essence is that it's saving it. Let's say you've been typing for about 15 or let's say 20 minutes. So it just got done saving your information. and then all of a sudden the lights go out, the power goes out, your machine goes down, okay? Well, normally when that happens, whatever you've got on your screen, you're losing. Well, you will lose what you have on your screen, but because it's been doing this like little auto backup, you know, every 10 minutes, chances are it's been saved for the most part. And you're going to know whether it was or not, because then when you get back into the program after power is restored or after you reset the machine or whatever, it's going to come up and there's going to be a little panel in Word. So when you bring up Word, on the left side a panel will pop up, will say, hey, we were able to recover, you know, this particular document. Would you like to use it? And you say, sure. And you click onto it and it comes up. And maybe you're missing a couple minutes worth of data that you had in there, but at least you haven't lost the whole thing. So that's a good feature to have. So leave that alone. If anything, you might get a little bit more paranoid and say, hey, you know what? Have it save it every 2 minutes, and you can change that to 2. But that's up to you if you want to do that. The other minor thing, okay, and this is just something to think about. There's a feature on here called embed fonts on the file or in the file. The fonts, you know, in this case we're using Arial and so forth. Those are standard fonts. But if you've got some fancy fonts that maybe you went out and bought or they came with a particular program, those fonts, as fancy as they are, might not be available on other people's machines. Okay, so if you're sending a file out to somebody that you typed up, they are not, if they don't have that font on their machine. I had one that it was called I think the font was called Alphabetic or something. I can't remember what it was, but it was a pretty cool font. Well, that font is not going to be on somebody else's machine. That was a weird font that I came up with. So by turning this on here, what that means is that the font is embedded into the document. So when it goes and gets opened on a different machine that doesn't have the font, that font will still display in that document because it was embedded in that document. So just something to kind of think about when you're doing this kind of stuff. Okay, I think that's about it on that. So you go ahead and hit OK. I'm just going to hit cancel on here. But you'd hit OK, and that would be it. Then you got it all set up. So that would work perfect. Okay, so hopefully all this kind of helps you out a little bit. I think it's a great way of getting the system to function the way that you want it to function and to get your documents look the way that you want to look, make them look. So thanks for watching the video. Take care.